So you've probably heard about the story that Jeff Weaver, who is Bernie Sanders' former campaign chair, and now this last time around he was like one of his top advisors, he founded his own super PAC in conjunction with other Sanders aides, and a lot of people were like, "What are you doing? Why are you making a super PAC? This is like going back on everything you said, and this is just an embarrassing, a dumb decision." And so everyone was like, "What is going on here?" Now, apparently Bernie Sanders is not a fan of this super PAC. In fact, he hates that his staff has launched a super PAC, and that resulted in a name change. Now, they named it Future to Believe In, which is, I guess, a reference to Bernie's 2016 campaign. And because Bernie didn't like it, they didn't like the fact that they were creating a PAC, they changed the name to make sure that it's not something directly, related to Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign. So instead, the name is now America's Promise PAC instead of Future to Believe In PAC. We wanted to be as clear as possible that there's no association between the PAC and the senator. Super PAC head and Sanders advisor Jeff Weaver told Vice News. So, it says, quote, "The senator was informed about the creation of the super PAC before the paperwork was filed, and he was not happy about it," Sanders political spokesman Mike Casca told Vice News. Numerous other Sanders staff used more colorful language to describe Sanders' reaction to the group. Quote, "He didn't authorize it. He doesn't like super PACs and doesn't want it to exist." Quote, "He didn't authorize it." And I already said that one. Another one says that Bernie, quote, "Bernie's pissed off." So Chuck Rocha is also another guy who is being part of this whole super PAC thing that's going on. And so, I don't think this super PAC is a good idea. I really don't understand the purpose for it, to be honest with you. The stated goal is to basically lock in some progressive gains by making sure that Biden wins and that Trump loses. I just don't really understand what they're trying to get at here. It doesn't really make sense to me, to be honest. I think Nina Turner is also not a fan of this, if I'm not mistaken. So it's certainly of some heavy controversy, I would say. Some pretty heavy controversy this decision has been met with. Bernie himself doesn't like it. Now, one side of me is like, okay, well, you shouldn't start it just for the fact that Bernie does not approve of it. But then on the other hand, it's like, okay, well, just because Bernie doesn't approve something doesn't mean that it's not the right thing to do. But I think that the fact that it's a super PAC makes it the wrong thing to do, and I don't really understand what they're even doing. It doesn't even make sense to me. Like, how are you locking in progressive gains? What exactly are you doing here? And I think it's just completely unnecessary. If you were to form a traditional PAC, okay. I wouldn't donate to their traditional PAC, by the way. Jeff Weaver and Chuck Rocha are not people who I really have trust in at all. And Jeff Weaver had made some good moves, a lot of bad moves, I think, last time around in 2016. And he made some bad ones this time, but he did make some good ones this time. One of them being like he threatened to quit if they didn't get internal polling to figure out how to market themselves. But really weird stuff going on here, and this is sort of the fallout when, there's this sort of vacuum. I guess everyone's kind of running and doing their own thing after Bernie drops out, and there's all this chaos, which is, to be expected. It's what you would expect to happen. But, yeah, not a fan of the super PAC. Doesn't look like Bernie is a fan of the super PAC. Doesn't really look like anybody is a fan of the super PAC except for Jeff Weaver. So this really isn't a good look for his image. I haven't seen a single person who's a Bernie supporter be like, yeah, man, this super PAC is dope, and I understand why they're doing this. So I'm not really sure what's going through Jeff Weaver or Chuck Rocha's head, although Chuck Rocha is even more sort of ominous and sort of ambiguous than Jeff Weaver is, because he's even newer on the scene for progressives anyway. We just were familiarized with him this election. We were familiarized with Jeff Weaver already in 2016. So really weird stuff going on here, man. I don't know what's going on.